All right, so we're going to start with this problem, and let me see. Oh, in an effort to save ink, I wrote these out, and I goofed up by putting x instead of z. So this one's in terms of all z's. Mostly that was just to get used to showing you that some of these problems can be really annoying. So the problem that I see with this one as soon as I look at it is I really don't like keeping track of 1,000 different parentheses. So I'm going to switch the outermost parentheses to brackets because that makes it a lot easier for me to look at. So since I'm just rewriting the original, this is not h prime of z. This is still h of z because I'm not changing anything. That was ugly. All right, so I'm literally just rewriting the problem with these outer ones as brackets so I can clearly show you. Also, I'm fixing this typo I made earlier. All right, perfect. So again, now we have layers of parentheses. So we don't have a quotient rule because nothing's being divided. We don't have a product rule because nothing is being multiplied to each other. But we have chain rule technically 3 times. So we have this whole thing inside of that power, and then we have that inside the natural log, and this 6z inside the cosine. So we have, again, a multiple chain rule one. So, like I said, you start with the outermost part. So see how this part is entirely in parentheses? We're going to ignore this, leave it as it is, and deal with the part outside of that first. So now I'm starting to take the derivative, so I'm going to use the h prime of z. I'm going to multiply the 10 to the front, leave everything else as is, minus cosine of 6z now to the 9th, and then I'm going to multiply it by the derivative of this entire inner piece. And again, since I've got parentheses inside of there, I'm going to write this as brackets, but they're the same as parentheses. So it's natural log of z squared plus 1 minus cosine of 6z. Okay, so this part we just took care of the 10. Everything else we still have to take the derivative of. So looking at this one term at a time, we have, I'm going to rewrite it so that this is a little bit smaller so I have room to fit everything over here. So give me 1 sec. 10 natural log minus cosine of 6z to the 9th. Okay, so now going through, looking at just this term, because a minus and a plus separate terms. So this is one term all by itself. This is the parentheses, so I'm going to deal with what's outside of that first. So natural log, the derivative of natural log is 1 over whatever's inside, so z squared plus 1 multiplied by, and I'm going to skip the step where I write this part out again, but we're multiplying this term by the derivative of what's inside that. So the derivative of this is going to become 2z. Okay, so all I did was take the derivative of the natural log component and then multiply it by the derivative of what's inside here. So I skipped the step where I wrote it as dx and did it in another line, but hopefully with the last 2 videos, that's a little bit clearer. Same thing here. We're going to take the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine. So we're going to subtract negative sine, leave it alone. So negative sine of 6z multiplied by the derivative of 6z, which is just 6. And then boom. And now all we have left to do is write everything pretty. So h prime of z is 10 times the natural log of z squared plus 1 minus cosine of 6z, all that being to the 9th. And then that gets multiplied by 2z times 1 over that just becomes 2z over z squared plus 1. And then minus becomes plus. Move that 6 out to the front. 6 sine of 6z. So then, as ugly as it is, this is our answer. Again, like I explained in the last problem, I personally like putting everything in power order. Since it's all being multiplied across anyway, I would write it as this way. So 10, and then the next lowest power bracket is this one, so it would be 2z over z squared plus 1 plus 6 sine of 6z, then times the natural log. Wow, this is a long problem. Z squared plus 1 minus cosine of 6z all to the 9th. So again, that's just so the 9 isn't squeezed between two brackets, but that's just how I prefer to look at it. Again, technically, if I were to rewrite it like that, there would be another step between, or like this piece would be 2 steps, but since I've done already 2 problems writing it out like this, I figured I would just write it how I write it, and you guys can look back if you need to get clarification on how we skipped technically half of that step. Other than that, same rules apply from before. Like if it's a long problem that's going across the page, try to condense the part you've already done. So see how I wrote it from here to here, the small part, so I didn't have to cram the part I was working on, because that's how you make mistakes. Watch your signs, because the negative becomes a positive. And then other than that, just take your time. The next problem is one that I would definitely watch the next video, because that's going to be a rather long problem, and I will see you there.